Assalamualaikum class 10 students. Uh, we are doing chapter number 11, okay, homeostasis. And yesterday we have discussed about the okay, but we have started homeostasis chapter, okay, and in previous lecture we have started a topic homeostasis in plants, okay. So I have told you that homeostasis in plants can be divided into four parts. First, removal of extra carbon dioxide and oxygen. Second, removal of extra water. Third, removal of other metabolic waste, okay. So in these three steps, I have discussed with you removal of extra carbon dioxide and oxygen. Today we will discuss, you can also see on the screen, removal of extra water. Okay, so today we will discuss about the removal of extra water, that how plants remove extra water from their body. Okay, so keep in your mind, plants remove extra water from their body in two ways. Okay, first process is called turgidity. Okay, you can see on the screen, and second is called guttation. Okay, but question is that, okay, what is the difference between two? What is turgidity and what is guttation? Okay, so I told you what is a turgidity. Okay, you can see plants obtain water from soil. Yes, we all of know that plants gets water from soil, from the roots, from root hairs, and it also produced in the body during cellular respiration. Yes, this is also true when leaves make sugary solution with the help of water. Okay, when air mixes with water, it's converts into sugary solution. So plants produce water in two ways. Okay, first it gets water from the roots. Secondly, mostly water is produced during cellular respiration. Okay, so plants store large amount of water in their cells for turgidity. So when plants store these large amount of water, okay, so because of that, because of that, the cells of plants become turgid, they become swollen. Okay, so this process is called turgidity. So extra water is removed from plant body by transpiration. So when a plant becomes turgid, when it gets plenty of water, okay, so it becomes swollen. So the extra water removed from the body of a plant through transpiration, and you all of know transpiration is a process in which extra water is removed from the body of a plant by a process which is called evaporation. Okay, so when extra water is stored in the body of a plant, and I told you there are two ways. First, the plant gets water from the roots, and secondly, when plant do cellular respiration, so plenty of water is produced. So this extra water, due to this extra water, plant becomes turgid, its all cells become swollen. So this extra water is removed by the body of a plant through a process which is called transpiration. There is another way which is called guttation. In this way, plants also remove extra water from their body. But now we will discuss how extra water comes in the body of a plant. Okay, as we know, transpiration is only happen at daytime. It does not happen in night. Yes, because for transpiration process, sunlight is necessary. So due to sunlight, extra water is evaporated from the body of a plant. But when there is night, we all of know there is no transpiration because there is no sunlight. So what is happened? So most plants have their stomata closed, and we also know this reality. At night, most plants have their stomata closed. Okay, so if there is a high water content in soil, and we also know that plants get more and more water, plenty water from the roots, because roots further divided into root hairs, and they can spread very far away under the ground. So if a plant gets high water content in its body, so this water enters the roots and is accumulated in xylem vessels. We also know that xylem vessels also connected with roots. So this extra water is settled in roots in xylem vessels. So some plants such as grasses. Now this is an example of a plant. Okay, if we take an example of grasses, so they force this water through special pores present at leaf tips or edges. Okay, so there are also special pores. You can see in the diagram. This is a diagram. You can also see that there are also special tips and pores present on the tips of leaf. So the appearance of drops of water on the tips or edges of leaves is called guttation. I hope you understand that extra water, how this is removed from a body of a plant. There is two methods. First, it can remove by transpiration. Secondly, it can remove through guttation. In transpiration, when plants get extra water from the soil and it is also produced in cellular respiration in its body, then this then this extra water removed from this body by a process which is called transpiration. And we all of know that transpiration does not happen at night. So what is happening? So this extra water is accumulated in the roots in xylem vessels. So here example is given of grass. So grass force this water through special pores present at large tips of at leaf tips or edges in the form of drop. So the appearance of drops of water on the tips or edges of leaves is called guttation. So I hope you understand these two methods. Now we will see the side box. Transpiration is the loss of water from plant surface in the form of vapor. Okay. Now, what is a guttation? Guttation is not to be confused with dew. You all of know all plants have dew early in the morning on their leaves. So this is a fact. Guttation is not to be confused with dew. They are not same, which condenses from the atmosphere on the plant surface. How dew is formed? When water is condensed due to atmosphere. That's why we can see dew drops on the surface of a leaf. Okay. Now the third step, how homeostasis happen in the body of a plant. There is another step which is called removal of other metabolic waste. Okay. In first point, we have discussed about the removal of extra carbon dioxide and oxygen. Then we have discussed removal of extra water, how it is removed from a body of a plant. And now we will discuss removal of other metabolic waste. Okay, metabolic waste are those which are not important for the body of a plant. Actually, they are harmless, insoluble materials. Okay, so see the screen. Plants deposit many metabolic waste in their bodies as harmless insoluble materials. Okay, so as harmless insoluble materials, plants produce many metabolic waste. For example, first is like calcium oxalate. This is produced in the forms of crystals in tomatoes. And it is stored in the leaves and stems of many plants. For example, in tomato. Okay. So that's why we have to say a person who is caught by kidney issue, he does not eat tomato because it has a calcium oxalate, and if it is deposited in the kidney, it can cause of obstruction, it can cause of kidney stone. Okay. So first of all, we have discussed that how harmless insoluble materials can remove from a body of a plant. So example is given a tomato. Okay, it deposited calcium oxalate in the form of crystals in its in the form of crystal in their leaves and stems. So in this way they remove extra metabolic waste from their body. Okay, now come to the next page. Okay, bete. Next is page number 20. You can see on the screen in trees. Okay. So there is another way in which plants release metabolic waste from their body, and that is a shedding. Okay. Second step is a shedding in trees which shed their leaves yearly. Okay. So there are many trees around us which shed their leaves yearly, so the excretory products are removed from body during leaf fall. So when these leaves are fall, so extra metabolic waste is removed from their body. Okay, bete, by shedding. Okay, and other waste materials that are removed by some plants are resins. Okay, you can also see on the screen. It is given other waste metabolics that are removed from the body of a plant. The other step is other waste materials that are removed by some plants are resins by coniferous trees. Okay, so if there are coniferous trees, they remove their metabolic waste in the form of resins. If there are kikar plant, so it removes its metabolic waste by gums. Okay, and if there is a rubber plant, it remove its metabolic waste in the form of latex. And if there is a if there is a carnivorous plants, if there is a carnivorous plant, so it and ladyfinger, it can remove their metabolic waste in the form of mucilage. Okay, so different parts are given. You can also see on your book. Okay, different metabolic waste are removed by plants in the form of different ways. Okay, I hope to understand that how plants remove metabolic waste from their body. So your this topic has been ended. Okay, I have told you the three steps. Okay, so what are these three steps? First is that when there is a homeostasis in plants, first of all, the plants would like to remove extra carbon dioxide and oxygen. Okay, secondly, they remove extra water from their body, and third, they remove different metabolic waste from their body. Okay, I hope you understand it. Now come to the next point, next topic. Okay, now your next point is given osmotic and adjustment in plants. What is osmotic adjustment in plants? Osmotic, okay. I have told you that osmosis is a process in which what is happened, higher concentration to lower concentration. This is the concentration of water molecules. But in this topic, we will discuss the maintenance of water and salts in the body, because in start we have discussed that homeostasis depends on two factors. First is osmoregulation, third is thermoregulation. Obviously, plants have osmoregulation. So how do they remove extra water from their body? How do they balance the amount of water and salts in their body? So on the basis of the available amount of water and salts, plants are divided into three groups. Okay, so they are divided into three groups: hydrophytes, xerophytes, and holophytes. Okay, now we will discuss in a detail what are these. First, we will discuss about the hydrophytes. What are these? Hydro. Okay, hydro word tells us which live in a which live on land. Okay, which live completely and partly submerged in fresh water. Hydro means water and phytes means plants. Okay, so those plants which live in completely or partially in water. Okay, or definitely we have discussed that all plants need sunlight, oxygen, sunlight, water, and soil. But the plants which all time live in water and or partially live in water, how do they get water? How they get the food? And how do they remove extra metabolic waste from their body? And how do they maintain what amount of water and salts in their body? Because all time they are living in water. Okay, now we will discuss hydrophytes are the plants which live completely or partially submerged in fresh water. Okay, so underline in your book. It's a definition of hydrophytes are the plants which live completely. Okay, they can completely live in water or partially submerged in fresh water. So such plants do not face the problem of water shortage. Okay, definitely they live in water, so there is no shortage of water. So they have developed mechanism for the removal of extra water from their cells. So they have a special mechanism. Okay, so what is that mechanism? Hydrophytes have broad leaves. Underline in your book. The hydrophytes plants have broad leaves with a large number of stomata. Okay, so there are stomata are present in all leaves, but the plants which live in water, they have broad leaves. Why they have broad leaves? Because they produce a large number of stomata. Why do they need many stomata? Because they completely live in water. So definitely they all time getting water and salts from the water. So they have to maintain the amount of water in their body. So that's why they need many stomata on their body. Okay. So first of all, even hydrophytes have broad leaves. Secondly, they have a large number of stomata on their upper surfaces. This characteristic helps them to remove the extra amount of water. Okay, so that's why this extra water comes on the surface of the leaf, and then there is the transpiration process. That whole water transpire by evaporation process in the atmosphere, and in return a plant can maintain the water and salts amount in their body. Okay, so the most common example of such plants is water lily. So underline the example of hydrophytes. This question also can come in your board exam as an MCQs. Example of hydrophyte is, so which is water lily. Okay, so this is clear to what are hydrophyte. Hydrophytes have broad leaves. with a large number of stomata on their upper surface. So in this characteristic helps them to remove the extra amount of water. Okay. Now come to the second one. This is xerophytes. Xerophytes live in dry environment. What is that? Xerophytes live in dry environment. Dry environment means they are plants which grow in deserts. So they possesses thick, waxy cuticle over their epidermis to reduce water loss from internal tissues. Definitely, all extra water is appeared on the surface of the leaf. So which type of leaves they have? They possesses thick, waxy cuticle over their epidermis. Why they have thick waxy cuticle over the epidermis? To reduce water loss from internal tissues. Okay? If internal tissues are producing water, so it because of thickness of that leaf, it should not reduce from the body of a plant. Okay, and we know in desert this is very difficult for the plants to get the water under the soil, because under the soil the water is very deep under the ground. Okay, so they have less number of stomata. Okay, in above discussion we discussed that they have a large number of stomata. Why? Because they completely or partially submerged in water, they live in water. But xerophyte, they live in a dry weather and there is very hot sunshine. Okay, so they have less number of stomata to reduce the rate of transpiration. So when God has created, they produce less stomata, that less water should be reduced in the environment. So such plants have deep roots to absorb maximum water from soil. Okay, so this is clear. If these plants have very deep roots under the ground. Why? To maintain the balance of water. So some xerophytes have special parenchyma cells in stems or roots in which they store large quantities of water. This makes their stems or roots wet and juicy. So this is also an interesting information. These types of plants absorb maximum water, and definitely we also discuss in chapter 9, class 9, chapter number 4, in plant tissues, that all plant tissues have parenchyma cells, and these parenchyma cells are present in stems or roots, and their function is that to store large quantity of water. So when a plant which is growing in a dry environment, first of all, it has very deep root under the ground. So when it gets the water, so parenchyma cells help them to store that water in roots and stem. So this makes their stem or roots wet and juicy. So that's why their roots and stems become juicy, called succulent organs. So stem and roots are called succulent organs of that plant. And succulent organs are present only those plants which grow in very dry environment like desert. Okay. So the example of xerophyte is that cacti, singular. Cactus are the common example of such plants. So underline in your book, cactus is a good example of xerophyte plant. Okay. Hydrophyte plant, water lily is a good example. Now, what is osmosis? Osmosis is the movement of water from hypotonic solution to hypertonic solution concentration through semi-permeable membrane. Okay. So you all of know about the concept of hypotonic and hypertonic. Okay. We have discussed in class 9 bio in chapter number 4, tonicity. Tonicity consists of which tells us the amount of water and salts in a body. Okay, so a hypotonic solution is that in which there is less solute, okay, and more solvent. And hypertonic is that in which higher solute and less solvent. Okay, so actually in simple words we can say osmosis is the movement of water molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration. So this example is fit with xerophyte plants because these plants have very deep roots inside the ground. So there is a higher concentration of water, and this water is through up the aerial parts of a plant by xylem vessels. So this process tells us the higher concentration, the movement of water molecule from higher concentration, which is in roots, to up aerial parts of a plant which are above the ground through lower concentration. Okay, so this is the function of xerophyte. Now we will go to our next page. Okay, come to the next page. Okay, but there is another example of halophytes. Okay, halophytes live in sea waters and are adapted to salty environment. Definitely, we all know that sea has salty water. Okay, so salts enter in the bodies of such plant due to their higher concentration in sea water. So definitely salt will enter in the plant which grow in the sea. So on the other hand, water tends to move out of their cells into the hypertonic sea water, and the other side, this salty water will be removed from the body of a plant through a hypertonic in the form of hypertonic solution. So when salts enters into cells, plants carry out active transport to move and hold large amount of salts and vacuoles. Okay, so when this sea water enters in the body of a plant, so due to that, a large amount of salts are collected in vacuoles. So salts are not allowed to move out through the semi-permeable membrane of vacuole. So the sap of vacuoles remain even more hypertonic than sea water. In this way, water does not move out of the cell. So many sea grasses are included in this group of plants. Okay. So what is happened in halophytes, because the environment of sea is salty. So when salty water enters into the body of a plant, you all of know in the center of a plant cell there is a vacuole. So this salty water stay in vacuole, and definitely vacuole has not a semi-permeable membrane. So due to that, this water completely stay in the vacuole and it does not remove out of the cell. So many sea grasses, okay, the example of halophytes are sea grasses, are included in this group of plants. Okay, I hope you understand today's lecture. In today's lecture, we have discussed osmotic adjustments in plants, and we also completed homeostasis in plants. So inshallah, in our next lecture, we will start homeostasis in humans. So I hope you understand this topic. This is an example of hydrophytes.